Okay, guys, today I am unboxing a game that is fresh off of the Kickstarter for fulfillment from Flying Pig Games. And you can see in the big, beautiful, framed up right in the center there is Armageddon War. And this is platoon level combat in the end war. So it's near future, futuristic, but it involves the obviously the Middle East. Countries like Israel, Jordan, Syria, others. I know it has ISIL and Hezbollah and all other types of jihadist type groups. So basically, once again, this is a near war game. It is platoon level, so a very familiar scale that most of us have played again and again. It is somewhat of a tactical game, meaning you're going to have maps, you're going to have a bunch of cool counters, and one thing that's great about Flying Pig Games counters is they're huge. They're 1-inch counters, beautifully illustrated. I think the counters are done by Shane Logan, who has designed the old school tactical system and does some of the art in those as well. This game is actually designed, you can see here in the bottom left, by Greg Porter. I was fortunate enough to do an interview, kind of a dual tandem interview with Greg Porter and Mark Holt Walker last May, so May of 2017, just as the Kickstarter was launching. I'd contacted Mark. One, I had interest in the game, and two, I wanted to see if I could promote it and get some more in-depth information about the game. So I asked, as we normally do, 15 or 20 questions. Mark and Greg kind of tag teamed it and did a great job. So once again, just received this week. Today is June what is today, the 8th? I think I got this on Thursday the 7th. I've been wanting to open it. I just have not had time. So here we are. You will notice there's a bunch of stuff. So let me kind of throw that on there. You've got the main game, which is in a huge box, very similar to old school tactical. I own volume 1 and 2. Then underneath that, you have the Burning Lands expansion, which I believe specifically includes Hezbollah and a couple of other new factions. Basically, it's just more stuff. Better, different units, different factions, so very cool. You can see here's some special dice. We'll talk about those in a minute. Some cards that we'll open up and look at. There is a strategy guide here, you can see. I'll go ahead and just kind of thumb through that. You can see this is definitely a futuristic, or once again, not futuristic, but near future. And this is called Tactical Guide. So there's a lot of different explanations about how the different units work, what works well together, how you should address and approach things like attacking, moving, the different units. You can see the counters. They're just huge. They're big, beautiful counters, and I'll show you here in just a minute. But yeah, this is about a 16-page strategy guide. It even goes through the different units here. Shows you some different information. Here's, I think, a couple of the new factions. Well, no, these are just some of the factions. Anyway, I'm going to get off topic. A little bit excited, but I'm also maybe not as prepared as I want to be. But yeah, there's a lot of neat elements. But yeah, this is a strategy guide. So there you go. A look at that. And this is a campaign called the 600, a campaign for Armageddon War. So I think they've strung together some specific scenarios that are supposed to tell a narrative, and you can see there's some write-up about what it is and then how you're going to go about that. This would be really fun to play through. It looks like there's 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 or 6 scenarios. So yeah, it looks like 6 scenarios in this kind of campaign booklet. So pretty cool. That's a nice picture there. So there's that. That's one of the items that was included. Here is also a look at the Alone in the Desert Solitaire expansion. Alexander of the Player's Aid loves solitaire, and we are going to play this in the next day or two, and I will try to get this, leave this with him so that he can go after that. So we'll open that here in a minute. I'm going to put that to the side. Once again, there's the cards, special cards, and some special dice, which I believe these are different than the normal dice. We'll check them out and compare them. But yeah, beautiful art. I'm telling you, really nice art. Goes well. I think it reinforces the theme. Here's another cool thing. It's just a print that was included. Frankly, I'd like to frame this and put this up in the game room. I think it's a very neat drawing, and I will definitely look at doing that. But let's go ahead and get down to the nitty gritty. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this out. I've already pre-cut them, and these boxes are chock full. I mean, there's some good weight to this box. There, I'm moving the camera. But yeah, if you've played OST or OST Volume 2, you know the size of the box, and this is very similar. So I'm going to put that over there and kind of center that. So the first thing you will notice is all of these special customized dice. Let's go ahead and open those. This is, I think, affectionately described as a bucket of dice game, meaning you're going to roll a lot of dice. I believe what you do is you compare your attack factor or attack value. Let's say your attack value is an 8, and the defensive value of the target you are shooting at is a 4. You're going to take 8 minus 4, and you're going to roll 4 dice. The types of dice you are going to roll is based on a lot of different factors. And once again, I have not read through the entire rule book, but I did when I did the interview. Got a good feel for what it has. But these are the base dice. These are the basic dice that you're going to pretty much roll for almost every attack. And they are I don't think they're the worst dice. No, they're not the worst dice. But they have strikes and counter strikes. So you're going to roll these. So once again, 8 minus 4, you're going to roll 4 of these. The attacking, you're going to get 4 hits. And then different things are going to happen. The other really cool thing about the game is the dice type can be escalated. Once again, these are the base dice. Then the upgraded dice are the red dice. And what I mean by upgraded is they have more symbols. So I think these are the sides that compare on the black and the red. The black has 1 and symbol, and that has 2. And you're going to find that as a comparison throughout these dice. But back to what I was trying to explain, if, for instance, you had an 8 attack factor and a 4 defense factor firing against the units that are coming at you, let's say those units are out in the open, they're moving. I think there's a ton of different factors. You might be able to replace 2 of the black dice, which once again are your standard dice, and upgrade those to 2 red dice. So you're now going to be rolling that. You roll it, you're going to get a bunch of hits and a bunch of counter strikes. And then the green dice, or I believe they're just kind of bonus dice. And you'll notice there's a couple blank sides. 3 of these sides are blank. One of them has a strike. They have 2 sides with 1 strike, and then 1 side, I believe, with 2 counter strikes. So, bucket of dice. I like dice. I particularly like custom dice. Now, while we're talking about this, sorry, and I may jump around on this, and I apologize. Part of it is I'm pretty excited about it, and 2, just got the game. I'm just trying to go through it. I haven't had a chance to read through the rules. But these are special dice that were, I believe, a Kickstarter pledge level, and they have some different symbols. So once again, I'll compare like the black die. This is the basic black die, very different than this upgraded or special black die. You can see there's 3 of those symbols. I don't know what those mean yet. There's 2 of those sides that have 3 of those symbols. So yeah, that's going to be kind of cool. Got to make sure I keep those separate, but you can definitely tell that there is some difference. Here's a comparison of this green die And on this special green die, you're going to have what is that strike symbol, but there's also an arrow. I don't exactly remember what that is, so I don't want to get those mixed up. But there you go. Bucket of dice. You're going to roll a lot of dice for this game. But it's pretty simple. I think the rules are intended to be very, very playable, very easy, intuitive, and understandable. And I think that if you've played other tactical war games, you're going to be able to get into this pretty quickly. Now, there's a lot of elements that are really cool, and I'll go through those here in just a minute. I keep saying that, and I apologize. Here's the rule book. It's a very nice rule book, actually, very well printed, full color, 44 pages, and a lot of those are scenarios. You can see there's 15 scenarios that are printed in this rule book. So if you take out the 15 scenarios, let me find where that is. If you take out the 15 scenarios, you're going to have 28 pages of rules. And I think there's 2 or 3 pages here that are just reference to different units. There's also a full example of play there at 6.0. It is an impulse-based system. You're going to do a blind draw of chits, command chits, and you're going to activate units that are pulled. So yeah, here you go. There's a look at the rules. So choppers, drones, those are automated units. You have things like barricades, IED, which are pretty cool. And I'm going to be honest, this game may touch a nerve for some people, and I think I understand that. But I still believe one of the greatest ways that we can pay honor and homage to battles and wars is to study and basically try to experience them through the eyes of the commanders that were there and the fighters who were there through games. Here's a look at some of the other just elements. There's snipers, lots of really cool stuff. I'm very excited about this. One of the really cool things is you'll notice these damage counters right here up here in the rule book, and I'll show you them here in a minute. They're kind of odd shaped, right? Those are administrative counters. I think they referred to them as trapezoidal, which is just a shape. So you're going to place that counter underneath your unit counter, and you're going to understand what its effects are. So I think that's a pretty neat thing. One of the concerns I've always had with tactical games and conditions and damage counters, sometimes you can get 4 and 5 things on top of a unit. You have no idea at first glance what that unit can do. Those look pretty neat. So there's the rule book. Pretty simple. I'll go ahead and put the rules over there. I'm going to go ahead and jump to the big, beautiful counters. Once again, I said these are 1 inch. I was rereading my interview with Mark Holt Walker earlier from today, and he made a comment. He goes, we're living in 2017, for goodness sakes. Why aren't we drawing counters that are big and beautiful, illustrated? And I agree with him. I think Flying Pig Games does a great job with their counters. So here's an example, a look at those administrative counters. So I'm going to pop one of those out. You can see it's a trapezoidal shape. I'm going to go ahead and punch out a unit. So here's a unit counter. Get it in focus there. An infantry counter. If that infantry counter takes a damage, you're going to put that underneath. So on the board, you're going to see the unit, but you're also going to have a ready reference to what types of negatives or conditions are granted because of that counter. Going back to those counters, you know, there's a blue and a yellow one. So it's called penned. Obviously it's a little harder, but it has a -2 modifier. And then here's a blue one that has a -3 modifier. So I'm telling you, I really like the way that looks. I think that's going to be really cool, really fun to see playing out on the board. So you may have a couple units together that all have different counters, condition counters underneath them. But once again, you can readily tell what your units are there, what they can do, what their abilities are, their capabilities, and I like that. So there you go. There's a look at some of those. I'll go ahead and take those up. But really nice. I'll show you that one. This is called Shaken. The first one was action, and then this one is called pinned. So there I showed you those condition counters. Pretty cool. And then on the back of them, there are wrecks. So as vehicles, tanks are blown up, you're going to put one of these wreck counters out. So I showed you some of those unit counters. Here's a look. I'm not going to try to butcher the names, but you can see there's all kinds of different units, Humvees, tanks. Very, very cool. I mean, here you have a pickup truck with a 50 cal machine gun in the back. How many of us have seen that in movies like Black Hawk Down? I mean, this is real, ripped from the headlines. T-55A tanks, T-62s. There's even some bivouacs here. I'm assuming these are supply depots, potentially. And then we go on the back of the counters, which is a reduced side. And you can tell the reduced because of the bands through the middle. Here's some barricades. These counters are really nice. The other thing I wanted to show you was these civilian counters. Let me go ahead and they're on the back of the smoke counter. But there's a civilian counter, and you might ask yourself, well, what is a civilian counter for? You got to remember these wars that have been going on in that area of the Middle East for centuries. I mean, it's fighting out in the open, it's fighting on the streets, it's fighting through the alleys, and there are civilians that are caught up in those wars. So without looking at the book, my guess is that some of the scenarios have counters that will turn over and reveal themselves as civilians, and you have to be careful as to whether or not you do damage to them, or you might have to get them off the map or get them out of trouble. So there's a look at those counters. But yeah, these are great counters, very typical of Flying Pig Games. Nice looking stuff. Here's a look at some of the other counters. There are 5 full sheets of counters. Lots of them appear to be administrative counters. These are some different weapons, missiles, tow missiles, etc. You have some handheld anti-tank, probably surface-to-air missiles as well. Here's the IED counters that I was referring to. There's a recoilless rifle. There's some other missiles, and then you have the RPK, the Russian machine guns. Lots of neat RPGs. RPG. Great looking counters. So these are going to attach to infantry units. You're going to load them out, and they will have different capabilities. You're familiar with that if you've played old school tactical. You can attach BARs, machine guns, satchel charges, etc. Every other tactical game seems to do that. Here's a look at some of the Israeli units, advanced infantry. Very, very cool. Look at those tanks. Here's a look at some other units. Not really sure what those are. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff. You can see there's trucks. You know, you're going to have trucks just like in old school tactical where you are running your troops around trying to get their movement. There's the drone counters. Very nice. So I'll show you the last sheet of counters here. More of the same, just different units, different types of units. Here's some U.S. units. So there are U.S. and Israeli units, but a lot of the other units are factions of the rebels, insurgents, different forces that are active in that region. So yeah, there's a look at the counters. I tell you, these counters are beautiful. They are absolutely incredible. Here's an autonomous unit. So those are going to act to do different things. I can't remember exactly all the rules, but they are kind of an AI that will move around the battlefield without you directly directing them. There's some Apache choppers, and yeah, very cool units. And I'm really enjoying looking at these. I hope you are too as I go through them. So yeah, there's a look at the counters. Once again, there are 5 full sheets of counters, including a large page of the new administrative condition counters. Here I'm going to show you, before we get to the good part, I'm going to show you the player aid cards. There are 2 of them. They're double-sided. One side you can see has the terrain reference for combat, movement, etc. And then the other side has some of the basic information. For instance, talks about what's on the counter. So you can see defense value is in the very far right. That's the, once again, remember the, I think this is called a counter strike. So that matches up with the defensive value. This is your strike. Can't remember what the 9 is. My guess is it's an armor piercing number. So very, very cool. So that's, look at those counters. There's an explanation of the different conditions, some of the different support weapons. You've got your turn sequence, your movement and terrain, special range characteristics, close combat, one of Alexander and I's favorite part of tactical games. We tend to kill ourselves to try to get into close combat. And then here's some fire combat basics. So there you go. 2 of those cards appear to be very self-explanatory. Now this map, there are several maps in here, and they are full mounted map boards. I'm going to pull them out. There are 2 of them. And I'm going to have to move this box so that you can see the full grandeur. I'll move this over here. So forgive me. We don't really do editing on these videos, so you'll just have to live with it. If you don't like it, that's cool. Don't watch. So yeah, here you go. Now, you know, the first thing you might notice is it's a desert. So there are lots of brown, different colors of brown, different colors of, you know, you have your brown terrain, then you have like a lower terrain or a higher terrain. You have some buildings. This is a hill with a fortification or a city on top. You can have a look here at roads. Here's some water. So fairly standard for a tactical game. But yeah, they're nice looking maps. They have a command track here shown on the edge. This is map number 1, by the way. So, you know, once again, this is a pretty standard tactical map, but it is a nice looking map. Very functional. The hex numbers are very big, which I am appreciative of. My eyes aren't as good as they once were. So this is a look at map number 2, and these are single-sided. So the backs of these are black. You can see here there's an airfield with some bunkers and maybe some bunkers, some command tents. These almost appear to be lines of tanks. My guess is they're barracks, buildings, different administrative buildings. But you have an airfield, hangars, and you have some aircraft on the ground, roads again. And then off here on the right, you have a couple different types of terrain. You have rocky, you have some elevated hills. These almost appear to be fields. I'll have to check that out. But you know, once again, desert game in a desert region, you can't expect to see a bunch of trees. But for what these maps are, I think they're very clear, concise, big hexes. And for 1-inch counters, which you've already kind of seen a couple of these on the board. You know, you put a couple of these 1-inch counters out there. This is barbed wire, by the way. You know, really nice, easily seen. If you throw those action or condition markers out there, look how nice that stands out against that brown background. So very well done, Mark and Flying Pig Games. Here's a look at all those dice. So now what I'm going to do, there's a second big box, the Burning Lands expansion for this game. I'm going to go ahead and open this up while you just keep gandering at that map. Probably lose yourself in it. Tell me if you're going to start hallucinating or if you see a mirage. I'd like to know. Anyway, so there's the Burning Lands box. Really nice looking box. And it comes with a bunch of stuff. But I'm going to tell you, look at the room that's left in that box. So what does that tell you? There may be more expansions down the line. There may be more factions coming out. Additional maps. Who knows? Who knows? I'm sure Mark Walker and Flying Pig Games, in a crazy scheme to make some money, they're not going to get rich, but they're going to make some money. They will be, I'm sure, releasing expansions in the future. But here's a look at the Burning Lands expansion. Nice looking cover. But it is an expansion that adds Jordanian units, Hezbollah units, and then there are some new scenarios and some new maps and counters. So we'll kind of just get a look there. Here is a look at, here's one scenario. Looks like there might be, actually there's quite a few. There's 6 scenarios included. So that's definitely valuable. That's nice. So we have one full counter sheet, which these are the Hezbollah units, right? I'm just double checking. Yeah. And then Jordanian units are up here. Really like the colors. Really nice looking units. I'll give you a good close up there. And you know, I always check them out to see if they're centered, and they appear to be pretty centered. You know, this was a pretty big fancy Kickstarter, and I think they really try to make sure these are done well. Not that they don't normally, but turn them over. Here's the reduced side of those units. Just give you a quick scan of those. So yeah, really nice looking stuff there. You got another map. Let's go ahead and get this one out. This map is the same size. What are these, 22 by 17? This one actually looks a little smaller. I'm gonna move that. It is a little bit smaller. Just no, it's actually the same size. Needs to be flattened with some heavy books. But you can see it has a little more terrain. It has some trees, different rock formations here. Here is a road that kind of snakes through, some elevations. That's a really nice looking map. So that's map 3 for Armageddon War. So there you go, guys. That's the basic stuff. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to open these cards because these are formation cards. And frankly, I'm not going to lie to you, I don't remember how these are used. I don't necessarily want to speculate. I'm just trying to open them up and I want to show you. I don't remember what these are used for. But these are called formation cards. You can read, it identifies a division, boots on the ground, mobile and well-trained hard asses. So it's just kind of giving you a description. I'm not exactly sure, but it lines out the different units that they have. They have some Bradleys, a couple of vehicles. They have a sniper, 4 infantry, 2 advanced infantry, a couple of Humvees. So here's another example. This is Bader militia. So I don't know how these are going to be used. I'm not exactly sure. Maybe they coincide with different scenarios. Here's Gideon, veteran armored infantry, swift, cunning, and deadly. These are Israeli units. So here you can see some of those. Very cool. Love the art. I'm going to be honest, I love the color usage and the units. So here's some of those Hezbollah units. Al-Musawi, infantry heavy force, fanatical warriors who will never give up. They have a few tricks to teach their enemy. They got a remote machine gun. That's awesome. Very, very cool. So yeah, they got a drone even. They're a little well-funded and have a drone. There's about 20 of these, so there's a lot of different options that they offer. The one final thing that I want to show you, and then I will have actually shown you everything, and then I'll try to get it wrapped up. I don't know about you guys. This game looks awesome. We're actually going to play this. I'm shooting this on a Friday evening. If I can get through the rules tonight, we are going to try and play this tomorrow. But here is the book for the Solitaire expansion, Alone in the Desert. And it is a full set of rules, very similar to 65. 65 was another tactical game from Mark Holt Walker. We got it, 2 years ago, 2016. And it had Alone in the Jungle. And it was a full tactical game. There are a deck of cards. I will go through those. Here's the deck of cards. So it's a card-based game. We're going to draw, and the AI for the enemy units are going to move in a certain direction based on what cards they draw. and then you're going to play your forces. So here's the rules for that. Goes through all those rules. So the Alone in the Desert scenario has 16 pages of rules, and there are 6 scenarios. So really the rules are only about 10 pages. So you get the base game down, and now you're going to be able to very quickly pick up the solo scenario. They got nice examples of play. Fairly heavy text, so you're going to be able to read and look and follow. So very cool. But yeah, that's Alone in the Desert, the Alone in the Desert expansion. And it comes with a full sheet of counters. There's a look. They are rebel units. And I don't know if you're going to fight against the rebel units every time and you're going to choose another faction. But here are different, looks like, counters that are telling us what the enemy is doing or what they have done. You flip them over, you've got objective counters. And then you've got these administrative counters that say cautious, aggressive, defensive, etc. So there's a look at those counters for the Alone in the Desert expansion. I'm going to give you a quick look at the cards. And I know this has been a longer video. I'm going to try to wrap it up here in a minute. But this is a big game, and I wanted to give it a little time. Yeah, here's those scenario or the solo cards. So my guess is when you pull this card, you're going to look at it. If you have armor units, based on whether they're aggressive, cautious, or defensive, that's what they're going to do. Move 1 and fire, move towards an objective, full movement, move 2 and fire. So you're going to shuffle this deck up and then use that as you go through. There's the art on the back, kind of interesting. So yeah, that's the Alone in the Desert expansion. I think everyone likes to have a solo expansion, and that's becoming more and more common in our hobby, which is great. Not only are there a lot of good solo designed games specifically, there are lots of solo options for those games. So there you go, folks. A look at Armageddon War, or Geddon War for short. You know, you can call it whatever you want. But yeah, these counters are great. This game looks awesome. I'm excited as heck to play it. I think this will be a fun one. Lots of stuff here. There's those counters. Really love the colors. I love the layout. I think the graphics design is fantastic. This is a high quality product. And I want to thank Flying Pig Games for putting this game together and getting it out so quickly. So there you go. So hopefully Alexander and I are able to play a game, like I said, tomorrow. I need to get through that rule book, trying to understand it a little better. And then a lot of times what we do is we just dive in and play. We've played a lot of different tactical games, and typically following the sequence of play and the player aid cards, you can generally figure things out over the first round or two, and then you can start really playing after that. So there you go. Armageddon War from Flying Pig Games, designed by Greg Porter. Fantastic. Look for this on retail. If you're going to buy all of this, it's going to be a little more expensive, but I think looking at it, the quality is fantastic. And I really think, to be honest, that this is worth your money. I think this is a game that we're going to play pretty often. I think there were a total of 20 scenarios between the expansion and the main game. That's fantastic. I love to play through scenarios, and then there's even a mini campaign, the 600. So thanks a lot. If you enjoyed the video, please like, and if you enjoy our channel, please subscribe. Also, you can check out our blog at thePlayersAid.com for reviews, written reviews, strategy guides, AARs, and playthroughs, as well as regular monthly series that identify new and upcoming games from great publishers like Flying Pig Games, Compass Games, GMT Games, etc. So thanks for watching. I've been Grant for the Player's Aid, and I look forward to reporting on this game here in the near future, and definitely look forward to playing it. Thank you very much.